Good evening, folks, and welcome back to yet another episode of NASCAR Backmarker Battles. I'm your host, Colby Evans, a.k.a. Starting Park Car from Twitter, and we have a huge show for you guys today. Finally get to say huge. Our racing podcast wasn't very big, but tonight we have a big show for you guys tonight, reviewing not one, not two, but three races, and we're also previewing two more chase races. Like I said, huge show for you guys today. Lots to talk about, lots of news. The 2024 silly season is really kicked into full gear. Rick Ware Racing, we'll start it off right here. We'll talk more about it a little bit later in the show. But yes, Rick Ware Racing will get to keep its charter for 2024. They will not be reduced to one. They will get to keep both. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later in the show, but that's big to start off this podcast. We'll get right into the video once I do my little intro. And like I said, reviewing Homestead and previewing Martinsville. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Starting Park Car on Twitter. Goal is to get to 5,500 followers before the end of the year. We're only a little over 250 followers away from that. So let's get to that 250 follower goal, or 5,500 follower goal. You see what I mean, guys? It's been a long day. Like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. And, of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR media-related content. All right. I got to pre-record that intro, man. I always botch it. So we had Homestead, my personal, if not behind Kansas, just because Kansas is my home intermediate track outside of Iowa. Homestead's my second favorite intermediate track. It's such a great facility. It produces great racing. The amenities need to be improved a little bit. I've definitely heard from some people who camp at the track that it's not perfect. The outside amenities are not perfect, but it's just you can't beat the racing, man. It is so good from the bottom to the top to the middle to the lower middle to the higher top. I mean, it all over, man. A great track. It's one of NASCAR's best tracks. Hard to believe it used to be flat. I mean, there's an era of fans who do not remember flat Homestead. Homestead used to be regarded as one of the worst tracks on the schedule because it used to be flat. It used to be a 1.5-mile flat track. It was very slow, and you really had to – it was a driver's racetrack like it still is today. So we had all three series here, the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. Truck and Xfinity were on Saturday, and then, of course, you got the big show on Sunday. Overall, all three races delivered. We'll start off with the truck race, the 2023 Baptist Health 200. Now, note, this race was noticeable for a couple of things. Number one, the short entry list. And I want to know if it is – I'm not going to say it's concerning to an extent, but it does not paint the Truck Series in the best light. I don't know why we have a short entry list. I'm kind of shocked. Homestead is not necessarily a far drive from North Carolina. I mean, it's, every drive from North Carolina is far for these teams, but, Homestead Miami Speedway is one of the closer tracks on the schedule. It's on the East Coast. It's south, but it's a decent distance away. But only 34 teams entered. We did not see, Jennifer Jo Cobb make a late appearance. We did not see Justin Carroll make a late appearance. We did not see Norm Benning make a late appearance. We just had 34 trucks. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate that. But yeah, only 34 trucks, and that was very surprising. And keep in mind, we've only had, I believe, 29, 30 full-time trucks this year for 36 spots. So yeah, it's great that they, have raised the starting field back from 32 to 36, but it's kind of surprising that we've seen a couple of short fields this year. Now, note, the last time we saw 34 trucks was back at the Texas race in the spring. But that is kind of invalid because the 04 truck, and unfortunately us, the 56 truck, this was back in Texas in the spring, had to withdraw due to crashing in practice. So the 34 truck field was because of that. This was simply just because only 34 trucks showed up, which again is a little shocking considering that in last year's race we had 37. We actually had a truck go home last year. So that was the first thing I kind of noticed, which was kind of sad, but I guess a couple of extra back markers were not going to help the race. I mean, we still had a decent field of trucks nonetheless. Notable returning was G2G Racing, their first race in quite a while. This has definitely not been a stronger season for G2G. lack of funding, DNQs. Their last start was actually Mid-Ohio. Kind of hard to believe it's been that long. They have attempted races. They attempted Richmond and they attempted IRP, but both failed to qualify. But the last race they actually ran was Mid-Ohio, and that was actually Dale Quarterly with his own equipment. So in reality, the last race that G2G actually ran under G2G Racing was Nashville. Back way back in the summer. So it's been a while since G2G has been on the track. That's for sure. Likely, I would say they entered. I mean, my guess is they personally entered because it was a short field. I mean, you think about it. Without G2G here, how many trucks would we have had? What, 33? 33 trucks. So that would not have been good for Fox. Obviously, Fox, I wonder if part of the deal is to getting these big truck fields. But yeah. Great to see the 46 back nonetheless. An extra body in the field is never a bad thing. Even if G2G is not the most popular truck series team, the more trucks in the field, the better. So I'm not going to complain about that. Some of the unique entries we had, and each person we have entered in this race, not necessarily a wild entry list. We had some unique entries, but kind of the same that we've been seeing lately. We had Bailey Curry back in the 41. We'll have news on him after we get done with this truck portion. We had Bailey Curry back in the 41. I believe he's also going to be in that truck for Phoenix as well. We had everybody's favorite, Brad Perez. Not sure who hates Brad Perez, but there is no Brad Perez hate on this podcast. That is for sure. So if you're a Brad Perez hater, this is not the show for you. We love Brad Perez, or Bread Perez, however he wants to be called. I love Brad. Spencer Davis was back in the 04. Boy, it's been a couple of tough goings for Spencer Davis, man. This race was not good for him. We'll get to that in a second. After he was forced to start and park at Kansas due to crashing in practice. We had Marco Andretti, yes, from IndyCar. Marco Andretti, who plans to start more of a NASCAR career. He was driving the 7 for Spire Motorsports. Nick Leitz is going to be driving the 20, or drove the 20, and will be driving the 20 at Phoenix. He's filling in for the injured Greg Van Alst, who is out for the year. Mason Maggio drove the 22 in the combo effort between AM Racing and Rayom. Trevor Bain, he got the late call to be the crew chief, the driver of the 25 for Rackley War. Jonathan Schaefer, kind of a weird appearance for Jonathan Schaefer. Would not have expected him to run this race, but he was in the 30. Memphis Villarreal, cool to see him back in the Rayom 33 truck. Of course, we already talked about Armani in the 46. Tyler Hill, of course, he's finishing out the year in the 56 truck. The 61 of Jake Drew did enter initially, but it looks like the sponsors didn't come through. So therefore, they withdrew the truck. So we had 35 on the initial entry list, and the 61 withdrew. So that took us down to 34. So, like I said, some unique entries, but overall kind of what we expected. Always fun when you get these unique entries for a track like this. Overall in practice, though, like I said, with no DNQs, we'll kind of just skim through practice. A track like Homestead, again, it's hard for some back markers to practice well because they just need to find a feel for their truck. No real back markers in the top 20, maybe outside of Colby Howard. He was 13th. Again, that CR7 team is really, really good. They just can't seem to find any luck. But a lot of the other back markers that you would expect to struggle, like pretty much 25th on back was kind of who you would expect to be there. It's just kind of hard for those guys because those guys don't have the equipment to run top 20. They just don't. I mean, they can get there, but it's hard for them to stay in the top 20. It's hard for them. It's nothing against the drivers. It's hard for them. It's hard because that the equipment that got under them just isn't capable. Not for lack of effort, though. Only 31 of the 34 trucks took a time. The 25, 30, and 46 did not take a time. No real back markers surprises in the top 10. No real back marker surprises in the top 20 outside of Brad Perez. Again, Brad Perez, the road racing ace. Who would have thunk that he's actually decent on ovals? Love to see what Brad could do on more oval starts. And this is a Young's Motorsports truck, nonetheless. They're not exactly the top tier team. But they're okay. I mean, they're not a top tier team, but they're not bad. They're just a decent team. They're mid pack. But yeah, I mean, Brad Perez out qualifying Daniel Dye, out qualifying Haley Deegan, Ben Rhodes, Matt Crafton. I mean, that says a lot about Brad Perez, especially doing it in a Young's Motorsports truck. So yeah, that was very impressive. And we'll get to the race itself. Again, we'll kind of skim through this because, like I said, it's not more of a race review. We're just kind of here to talk about the backmarkers. One of the highlights of the race was actually, again, we talk more about Brad Perez because he was a factor in this race. He drove from 18th all the way up to as high as 12th at one point in the race. Drove up to as high as 12th. Unfortunately, maybe if it was just lack of experience or just long run, didn't have long run speed, did kind of fall back through the field. But guys like, the 56, the 20, the 30, 22, 04, and the 12, they were just off the pace. They weren't really there. Poor Spencer Davis. I mean, we documented his troubles. Literally from the first lap, the truck just shut off. They're having fuel cell problems. And then his dash shut off. I mean, he was on and off pit road. It's just like the truck just didn't want to run. It's like it just didn't want to work. Everything that Spencer was trying to do to the truck, it just was not responding. I mean, and it was sad seeing him out there on the radio. He just sounded so defeated on the radio. I mean, he's made 2 returns in the NASCAR Truck Series, and they've both just gone horrible. So that sucks. And I hate to say it too, because I love Corey Roper's team. Armani Williams, he's a rookie. We've seen him in a lot of starts. He has not been very fast, but he's a rookie. I believe he does have a disability. I don't quite remember what it is off the top of my head, but I do believe Armani does have a disability. So he's a good story. He was off the pace, but I will say this. He managed, even despite getting a warning for going too slow, he did not get parked. He did finish the race 13 laps down because he had stalled the truck a couple times. But Armani did finish the race. So I'll give Armani Williams a shout out, man. Just finishing a race is impressive. It's not easy, especially at a track like Homestead, and you're in an underfunded truck. But, credit to him, man. That's not easy. Some of the highlights, we had lots of long green flag runs. Guys like in the last run, we had Marco Andretti and Tyler Hill, Nick Leitz try to stay out. They did have a set of tires left, but they tried to stay out to get a good finish. It did work out for them. Marco Andretti, guys like Marco Andretti, Tyler Hill, and Leitz, they did finish better than where they started, and honestly, probably better than where they would have finished. Marco Andretti, he only qualified 27 just from lack of experience on a track like this. He probably wouldn't have done any better than 25th. Tyler Hill probably would have ran around 25th, just kind of where he was the entire weekend. I think he qualified 26th. He probably would have finished around 24th, 25th. It's about the truck they had. Nick Leitz, same thing. Him and Tyler started right next to each other. So they probably would have ran around each other and finished around each other. Same with Jonathan Schaefer. He struggled early. Mason Maggio and Memphis Villarreal, they really had kind of the moment of the race, which is not a moment we necessarily want to talk about, but we have to bring up nonetheless. Armani has autism. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, I didn't want to speculate because I didn't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it looks like it is autism. Well, again, that just makes Armani's story more special. But unfortunately, this does come down to rookie mistakes. Not Armani. This is going back to Memphis and Mason. They were coming down pit road, and they made contact. I believe they had the boxes right after each other. And I put this – you can put the blame on Memphis, but he is just a rookie. He's not done this many times. And, as me, an aspiring race car driver, I want to do this. This is one of the fears that even I personally have is, your job is to not hit those crew guys. They're there to do their job, and you're there to put the truck right where they need it to do their job. And unfortunately, the 22 and the 33 got together and a very, very ugly impact that took out one of the tire changers. I don't know if it was on the 22 truck or if it was on the 33 truck. It was one of the Rayom trucks, but wasn't clear exactly which truck it was from. The guy was You could see him physically in pain. He was taken to a local medical center for updates. I believe has he been released? Was that ever announced? Was he released from the medical center? I would assume he has been by now. He's been a long-time tire changer in the sport. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. Sorry. But whoever that crew member is, I hope he's well. I hope he returns to the track. He might be out for the rest of the year, considering we only have two more races in the rest of the year. So he might be done for the year. But those crew guys, man, that's their living, man. They'll be back next year. That guy will be in the gym working out. So that crew member will be back, and that's the good part is we'll see him back in the garage next year. But other than that, like I said, some of the backmarkers did good. Carson Hocevar, Ben Rhodes played the best strategy, in my opinion, of the entire year. His truck was garbage. The 99 team missed the setup by a mile. I don't know what the hell was wrong with that truck. He didn't practice, he didn't qualify, and he did not run in the top 20 the entire damn race. Up until that last caution for Mason Maggio spinning in turn 4, his crew chief, Rich Lucius, brought him down pit road, gave him a set of tires. He drove all the way up to the front of the field. Corey Selig. All right, so shout out to Corey Selig. Get well soon, my friend. We want to see you back on pit road. Thank you, NASCAR Fan 05. So, Corey, we want to see you back. All right, buddy? So get well. But, yes, Rich Lucius made the call of the year, in my personal opinion. Maybe a championship-winning call to get Ben Rhodes that set of tires, and everyone else was going to have to pit anyway. But they made the call to get him up front, and it worked out. He didn't win the race. But his top 5 finish still netted him or top 3 finish, I should say, netted him a spot in the next round, or I believe like the final 4. I don't know. Yeah, the final 4. Yeah, so a very gutsy and call that worked out perfect for Ben Rhodes. Carson Hocevar did end up winning the race. Zane Smith was the most obvious, I would say, the almost obvious form of cheating this year. We all love them cheating stories in NASCAR. Zane Smith windshield would cave in at speeds. It was so clearly noticeable. Like, all of Twitter was all over. I'm like, there's no way. There is no way that 38 truck is passing tech. And sure enough, it didn't. Zane Smith was in a must-win situation. FRM had to get trickery with that, with a way to get the win. It didn't pay off. It did not pay off. They were credited with last. So if they had won the race, they would not have passed tech anyway. So kind of good thing he didn't win. So that's that for poor Zane Smith. Like I said, kind of hard for the backmarkers with all this green flag racing and, their trucks not being as set up as some of the higher trucks, and just not having the tire budget and overall the motor. Again, I'm still not the biggest fan of spec motors. Mark Wendredi came home 18th. Lawless Allen came home 19th. They were kind of the backmarkers who had the best. Man, I was hoping Tyler Hill and Timmy Hill, Hill Motorsports could get a top 20, but with about 7 laps to go. The 19 and the 43 got by us, and I'm just like, ugh, dang it. But, hey, I'll take 22nd. Still a good run for us. Nick Leach, 23rd. Brad Perez, he hit the wall at some point in the race, caused some damage to the truck, but still came home 24th. Overall, all 3 trucks for Youngs are in pretty much one piece, so that's not very often for Youngs, so they'll take that as a win. Spencer Boyd had an electrical fire, so he got saved from another last-place finish. Spencer Boyd doing Spencer Boyd things. It's just he doesn't do much. Poor Colby Howard, they had another great qualifying run, running top 20, and bad luck puts them down in 30th. I don't know what Colby Howard's team has to do for luck. They got taken out by Haley Deegan, which I think was probably the funniest moment of the race and the most angriest. Again, there's your Xfinity driver, a girl who, in my personal opinion, has not shown anything in the truck series and just dumps the crap out of the 9 truck right on the front straightaway. But, she's ready for Xfinity. So, Colby Howard, ironically enough, driving the same number that Colby Howard drove in the Xfinity series. That's kind of weird. But, she just blatantly dumps the 9 like crazy. But, I don't know, man. We thought she would do better at Thor Sport. She's done worse at Thor Sport than she did at than she did at Tricon. But yeah, I know if people are offended by that, I'm sorry. I'm not the biggest Deegan fan. I've had my issues with the Deegan family back in the ARCA days, but this is not the podcast or the time to talk about that, even no matter how much I think you guys would love to hear those stories. But yeah, overall, the Backmarkers did not do very well at Homestead. And like I said, we kind of knew that. It's hard for them to run on a track like this, when they have lower tire budgets and just overall not the setups to win. Some Truck Series news going into next year that we will discuss. Bailey Curry will be driving full-time next year for Nice Motorsports in the 41 truck. I could not be happier for Bailey. He is one of the most nicest guys you'll ever meet in the garage. He absolutely kills himself every weekend as a crew member and a driver. This guy is awesome. And I'm honestly saying if Nice puts the effort into that truck, you have a championship contender in Bailey Curry. I'm telling you, you might not think it, but Bailey Curry is a championship contender if Nice puts the effort into that truck that they should. So very, very happy for Bailey. Spire Motorsports, more announcements for them. They will field a second truck at Phoenix, the number 77 with Derek Kraus. We know that they're going to 3 full-time Cup cars next year. Could we see 1 to 2 full-time trucks? I mean, Spire Motorsports is just expanding like crazy, but they've got the money to do it. It's not like they're expanding themselves and hurting the team. They have the money and the resources behind them to expand. But could we see 2 full-time truck teams and 3 full-time Cup teams out of Spire Motorsports next year? That'd be pretty cool to see. But yeah, 2 Spire trucks at Phoenix. That shows you Phoenix will be a big field. Dean Thompson will return to Tricon Garage next year in the 5 truck. He's had a tough year. I hope next year will go better for him. Christian Eckes was confirmed to return to the 19 truck. Let's see here. What was there any other news? Did I miss any news? No, I think that's it for news in the truck series. If I missed any news in the truck series, let me know in the chat. We talked about Matt Mills on last week's show, I believe. Yes. So we'll move on to Xfinity now. The Xfinity race, I was really excited about this one. The 2023 Contender Boats 250. We had some really, really unique entries for this one. We had J.J. Yeley driving the 4 for Johnny Davis. We had Natalie Decker in the 07. Mason Massey was in the 08. We had Joe Graff Jr. was in the 19. C.J. McLaughlin was back in the 28. Mason Maggio was in the 29. Kyle Sieg was in the 38 because Joe Graff was in the 39, or is in the 19, I mean. Jeffrey Earnhardt was back with Alpha Prime again in the 44. Leland Honeyman Jr. was back in the 45. Matt Mills was back in the 53. Ryan Newman, yes, that Ryan Newman was in the 66 for Carl Long. Dawson Cram in 74, of course. That young upstart rookie Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kyle Weatherman in the 91. So, believe on last week's show, the DNQs that we picked, I picked the 53. I believe I picked the 53. Who did I pick? I picked the 53, the 29, and the 07. Yeah, the 53, the 29, and the 07. That's right. They were my DNQ picks on last week's show. I think we all kind of thought it was pretty obvious that Natalie Decker was not going to make the race. I don't know who in their right mind would have thought Natalie Decker was going to make the race. Just we know the fact that the 07 car alone is not very fast. The team itself has struggled a lot this year. You mix that with a kind of a slow driver in general. I like I said, I don't know who thought. I'm glad Wawa got their support. I'm glad, they got their name on a race car, but I mean, you literally sponsored yourselves right into a DNQ. There are plenty of other teams in the field, CHK, Dawson Cram, who could use that Wawa money and actually do something with it. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm not telling them who to sponsor, but man, go to CHK and Dawson Cram. They're running an older car. and are still better than the 07 team. It's frustrating seeing a great sponsored car just that slow when you know that a different driver could give that car a top 20 finish. But yeah, so those are my DNQ picks. I was close. I was 2 out of 3 for my DNQ picks. I am happy for Mason Maggio. I did not expect him to make the race. I'm very glad about that he did. I guess at the end of the day, when you're driving an RSS car, you do have that power plant under the hood to help. All 41 cars did take a time. Unshockingly, Natalie was the slowest. I think we all kind of called that. 3 seconds off the lead. CJ McLaughlin, 3 seconds off the lead in practice in an RSS car. I just don't know how that's possible. Like, I'm at this point, I don't even think it's considered being rude. How are you 3 seconds off in an RSS car? Unless they are giving him the dog crap of equipment that they have at that team. How is CJ McLaughlin this slow? In an RSS car, a car that is easily top 20 caliber. I mean, at this point, there's no excuses. He is terrible. I am sorry. He is just terrible. He's great sponsorship. I'm glad RSS Racing got SciApps a full season sponsorship deal, but God, CJ is just horrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. CJ is just not. He's a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. Met him at Kansas. Great guy. But he just can't drive. And if he does drive, he's slow. Painfully slow. And a car that is top 20 caliber with the right driver. Mason Massey, he kind of struggled in practice, but I believe this was one of his first times at Homestead. Probably lack of experience. Ryan Ellis, not as fast as we usually see the 43. Some of the backmarkers that we did see do well. Dawson Cram, P25 in the 74 car. Unbelievable speed out of CHK. Gotta love it. Jeremy Clements, P18, just continues to deliver with less, building their own engines. I'll even give a shout out to Brett Moffitt. Yeah, they have some SHR Technical Alliance, but it's still a lot of homegrown AM racing parts. So to see them running 10th, still very impressive. Kyle Weatherman and Josh Williams, 23rd, 24th, JJ Yeley, 26th. Ryan Newman was P28, so I feel like I didn't have anything to worry about there. The DNQs based off of practice would have been the 07. It would have been my picks, the 07, 29, and 53. So after watching practice, I'm going to go 3 for 3 for my DNQ picks. But I'll give a big shout out to Mason Maggio. He stepped it up. I'm sure his crew chief kind of told him. I mean, I've seen crew chiefs on the radio sometimes just be blunt. You got to pick it up. You want to race, you got to pick it up. You want to race these cars, you got to pick it up. So I don't know if they just told Mason that, but boy, did he step it up. Because not only did he make himself into the show, he actually qualified P30, outran guys like Anthony Alfredo, outran all. I think he outran 2 of the 3 Alpha Prime cars. He did it, man. He got himself in the show. Qualifying was really weird, man, at the time it started. The one thing I love about Homestead qualifying is even in a competitive car, if you miss your line and you wash up the racetrack, even the most competitive car in the field can still have a crappy qualifying lap. I mean, case in point, Dale Earnhardt Jr. He admitted on his podcast that him in the 88 car, he did not have a good qualifying lap. And it shows on the speed records. I mean, he was over a second off the pole, was Dale Earnhardt Jr. He was only a little over a 10th faster than Ryan Newman in a Carl Long car. Jeremy Clements in a home-built engine team outran him. Just goes to show you, man, with tracks like this, getting a good lap is so critical. And unfortunately, it took out a guy that I did not expect to miss the race, and I don't think any of you expected him to miss, but JJ Yeley. He was the other DNQ outside of the 53 and the 07. And the reason why is if you go back and watch his qualifying lap, you can actually see JJ. I mean, he has a perfect 1 and 2. But what happened to JJ in 3 and 4 you watch his qualifying lap, JJ throws it into turn 3, 3 and 4 on the bottom, and it does not stick. And it washes up badly, and I mean badly. And he was one of the slowest cars after he took the checkered flag. And he even said on the radio, sorry, guys, I hope that didn't cost us. And, well, unfortunately it did. JJ did still beat a couple of cars, but it was not enough. Matt Mills was oh so close, man. Matt Mills was 34th. He missed the show by just about half a tenth. Half a tenth he missed the show by. So, so close for Matt Mills in the 53 car. If there is one car in the Xfinity field that at this point is having worse luck than MBM, it is the number 53 Emerling Gase car. From either last place finishes or DNQs, this car has really had no luck the last 2 months. And for the 07 car, it is now 2 DNQs in a row and 5 for the year total. So it's been a long year for Bobby Daughter's team and a 07 car especially. Now 5 DNQs with that car. Patrick Emerling with one of the saves of the year. Yes, one of the saves of the year. He managed to not wreck the car after nearly hitting the wall. Same with Ryan Ellis. They had a water issue with the car. He got into some water, nearly spun out, somehow did not hit the wall, completed his lap, and they were both still faster than CJ McLaughlin, by the way, which was still funny. CJ unshockingly was last, even if he did take it a little easy due to, there's no reason for him to push. He knew he was going to start in the back. But, MBM with Ryan Newman, they ended up 24th. Dawson Cram, they narrowly made the race, but they made the race nonetheless in the 74, starting 32nd. So for CHK and MBM, they made the race. Unfortunately, the race itself would not go well for them, and we'll get to that in a second. So we get into the race, and boy, I tell you, the 66, we had the Rocket Man behind the wheel, and it was a rocket ship. We started 24th, drove immediately into the top 20. Ryan had the car sitting perfectly in 19th place. Now, I believe Carl did have a Yates motor for this one. I do believe we had an upgraded motor for this race. We had the full package, man. If our car had not broken, there's no doubt in my mind that the 66 would have had a top 20, maybe top 15 finish with all of the attrition that happened in this race. I would have been shocked if the 66 did not get a top 15 finish. But, unfortunately, it's just called bad luck, man. The 66 car drove over a piece of debris on track, which punctured a hole in the gear. I believe it was the gear. And it just started leaking. It just started leaking oil on the rear tires, which does kind of coincide with Ryan Newman. I was listening to his radio, and he just kept complaining the car was extremely, extremely loose. Well, now we know why. There was oil getting on the tires. And the fact that Ryan was not wrecking the car shows you just how talented he really is. But unfortunately, they got black flagged by NASCAR because the oil was starting to create smoke. They brought the car to the garage. And unfortunately, Carl's not out here to collect owner points anymore because he's so far down the line. He's just here for a good finish, and they just retired the car. And upon further inspection, they found the hole. So they were not going to get it fixed. Their day was over. As a guy who works for Carl, man, on a part-time basis, it hurt. Man, it really hurt. They had a top 15 car, great sponsorship from Generex Generators, a great motor under the hood. And in my opinion, he's still an A-plus driver. Ryan Newman, he just got stuck with bad rides. I always thought Ryan Newman was a great driver. So I really hope Ryan Newman does come back to the Xfinity Series. Obviously, with them, still being more similar to the old Cup cars, I still feel like that'll fit his driving style better than the next gen does. So hopefully Ryan Newman comes back for more Xfinity races. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure Carl Long will keep Ryan in contact, but I hope we see him back. Things did not get much better for CJ McLaughlin. Not 10 laps later, CJ had hit the wall a couple times, came down pit road, and the car was literally on fire. Car was on fire, not because CJ, I don't know exactly what happened, but the car did catch on fire. CJ hopped out of the car. There was fire retardant fluid all over the place. Scary scene in the pits. Glad everyone was safe. Glad CJ is safe. I mean, we might mock CJ McLaughlin for him being slow, but at the end of the day, I think we can all agree on this podcast, we never want to see a driver get hurt. Like I said, I don't like Denny Hamlin. I'm never been the biggest Kyle Busch fan, but I'll admit when they got hurt, I cared for them. So I never wanted to see CJ McLaughlin get hurt. So glad that he got out of the car. Glad that CJ's okay. The car doesn't necessarily look really, really, really damaged. It's going to need a lot of work, but it's not totaled or anything. It's not severely damaged. But yeah, definitely not going the best for CJ. This was part of his 5-race deal with the SciUp sponsorship on the 39. His final race will be Martinsville this weekend. He will not be running the car at Phoenix. Like I said, all my low-budget guys were having issues. First, the 66 has issues. Dawson Cram, who at this rate was in the top 25 too. I mean, like I said, CHK probably would have had a top 25 finish. So then I turned on to their radio, and they did not have much for tires in this race. If I heard the radio correctly on the 74 team, they had 1 to 2 sets of stickers in the pits. And at a track like Homestead, that is a death sentence for a team. I'm sorry, it just is. And they said just learn the track, as if Dawson just go out there, run a conservative pace, don't push it, and just get to the flag. Well, unfortunately, they didn't get all the lugs tight. Dawson had been complaining of a very, very severe vibration, and I mean a very severe vibration. He thought he actually broke an axle or the drivetrain. He thought he broke something horrible because the car was vibrating so badly. Well, we found out what was vibrating badly. It was a tire. Tire came off, and the 74 goes careening into the outside wall. Not horrible damage, but enough damage to where I'm not sure if Mike Harmon, they did withdraw from Martinsville. I don't expect them to be at Phoenix. If the car is damaged pretty severe, Mike just might say, I'm sorry, we're done for the year. But God, it's just got to hurt, man, especially, guys like Mike Harmon. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money to fix stuff. Mike in general doesn't have a lot of race-ready cars. He really doesn't. So I hate it. I hate the fact that 2 crew members got suspended. Mike Harmon can't afford that penalty either. So just a tough situation over. It's like my two low-budget guys I root for every week, Carl Long and Mike Harmon. This can't buy a break. So I'm glad they made the show, but came back to haunt them anyway. And then, of course, my fellow Iowa boy, Brett Moffitt, who had been running top 15 the entire race, top 10 at one point, he goes out and he gets crashed. Not his fault with the 16 and the 2 car. So it's like, not only does my Iowa boy, Brett Moffitt, get knocked out, and then my 2 low-budget guys get knocked out. I just can't win here. It's like I can't win. Mason Maggio, he kind of blew his race in the first couple laps. He hit the wall. He was pretty much running 5 laps down the entire race until he had to retire with electrical problems. I did miss a little bit of the race. Due to a family event, so I didn't quite see all of it. We had the big moment of the race between Junior and Josh Berry getting together, taking each other out. Where Josh, who am I kidding? Dale took out his own car, whether he admits it or not. He did. He took out his own car. The attrition rate was high. It looked like Riley Herbst was going to go 2 for 2, man. It really looked like it, and I wanted him to. I really wanted Riley Herbst to go 2 straight wins and really stick it to the haters, man. Really stick it to them, but he came up just shy, maybe 1 or 2 more laps, and Riley would have had that win for sure. But Sam Mayer, he held off Riley Herbst. Sam Mayer gets the win. Riley Herbst ended up second. Dale Earnhardt Jr., for his credit, still ended up 5th. He showed that even at 49 years old, Dale Jr. still got it. Some great runs. I'll even give a credit to Joe Graf Jr., man. 10th place. For all the people who say Joe Graf Jr. is bad, I don't think he really deserves the hate all the time, Sammy Smith only ran 9th. So, Joe Graf Jr. finished 10th. Decent run for him. Yeah, Ryan C got 14th, decent run for him. Poor Justin Allgaier and Cole Custer. They had the best cars. They kind of had the best cars all day. And they got stuck lap down. They couldn't get the free pass, so they were stuck with 13th and 15th. Kyle Weatherman, Josh Williams, 16th and 17th. Another great weekend for DGM. Jeffrey Earnhardt, man. When Jeffrey Earnhardt is motivated, he shows that he's pretty talented. 18th. Brennan Poole, 19th. Jeremy Clements, 21st. Some decent runs there. Kyle Sieg, and really important battle right here. We know the Kyle Sieg in the 38 car. Kyle Sieg in the 38 car and the 08 SS Greenlight entry are in their own battle right now. The top 30 7K bonus. And obviously, with only a couple races to go, the top 30 this year will be the top 30 for the first 3 races of 2024. That's an extra $21,000 guaranteed. Well, obviously, those teams like SS Greenlight Racing, who wants that money, and RSS Racing, who don't want to lose that money. Their battle right now is only between a couple of points. I believe it's like, 15, 16 points. Not a lot, but definitely enough to create some drama. We'll talk about more of that in just 1 second. Leland Honeyman Jr., another respectable run for him, for Alpha Prime. Look, a decent day overall, really, for Alpha Prime. Ryan Ellis, 24th, Leland Honeyman, 23rd, Jeffrey Earnhardt, top 20. Really much needed good weekend for Alpha Prime. Patrick Emmerling, 25th. Poor Sheldon Creed, he got wrecked with 2 laps to go. Mason Massey, 27th. Anthony Alfredo, I think he just wants to get this year over with at this point with BJ McLeod. It's not been the year that they've been looking for, and overall they haven't done much in the last couple weeks. I think they've exhausted all their good equipment. Blaine Perkins, 29th. It's about where we expect him, and the Sam Hunt cars had another tough day. Chandler Smith, he went out with an engine issue, and like I said, we talked about the other guys. So that Xfinity battle in points that I did want to discuss right now following Homestead for the top 30. Like I said, the 38 car holds it by just 16 points. And with 2 races to go, that is still entirely possible for the 08 car to make up. 16 points in 2 races, that's easily make-upable, especially when you consider how wild tracks like Martinsville and Phoenix can be sometimes. 42 minutes in, we're not even in the preview session yet. We get now to the Cup race, the Forever 400, presented by Mobil 1, named after Kevin Harvick, who's in his last season, of course. Overall, race was really, really good. The next gen car does race extremely well on tracks like this. It was an okay day for the backmarkers. Again, no DNQs because nobody enters an open car nowadays. I will say I was kind of shocked at the lack of pace with J.J. Yeley. J.J. Yeley, we'll talk about him in a second too. He had a pretty hard crash. J.J. Yeley was the slowest of the backmarkers. In practice with Josh Bilicki. We definitely expected Josh to be off the pace. He's not necessarily the best on ovals. Ryan Newman only 34th. Obviously, we know the Rick Ware cars have been kind of struggling as we've gotten later into this year after they showed way better speed in the spring. Qualifying was a bit of a different story. Ryan Newman and Josh Bilicki were, 34th and 35th. JJ managed to get up to 31st. So a little bit better runs for them. Ty Dillon, 33rd. Todd Gilliland, too. This was probably one of the most poor performances I've seen out of Todd Gilliland. He practiced outside the top 30. He qualified outside the top 30. And realistically, without attrition, would have finished outside the top 30. He only finished 25th, mainly due to attrition. But this was not one of Front Row Motorsports' better performances. That's for sure. Race was good. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecks himself again with a toe link. Pretty much killed his day. No real other accidents. We had until late in the race. We had Kyle Larson hitting the pit wall, which was actually quite entertaining. You don't usually see someone hit the pit wall. He basically did the reverse of what Kurt Busch did back in 2004. So that was the funny moment. And then we had something that just kind of made me sad. We had a restart, and poor J.J. Yeley. I mean, J.J. Yeley minding his own business. At this point, he's already 2 laps down. He's 2 laps down. He's like 4 wide. He's on the low groove, though, doing nothing wrong. And it was the 42, the 6, and the 1. I believe it was the 42 gets into the 6, gets into the 1, starts a chain reaction crash. The 42 goes careening down the side of the track into the 15 of J.J. Yeley and sends the 15 of J.J. Yeley. And I mean, this was a pretty hard hit into the inside wall. Thankfully, it's a safer barrier, but a very, very hard hit for J.J. Yeley. I was very glad to see him climb out of the car. John Hunter Nemechek was in the 42 for this race to kind of prep him for next season. It was a pretty rough go for John Hunter Nemechek, too. He got a speeding penalty early, and a bad pit stop pretty much put him behind the 8 ball the entire race. Not one of the better days for the 42 team at all. But yeah, J.J. Yeley took an extremely hard hit. Thankfully, he got out of the car a little bit later. But man, that sucks to see. Anytime you see a Rick Ware team like that, because they have assets to fix the car, but they don't have the unlimited assets to fix it like the top tier teams do. I also have my phone right now. I'm watching the modified race on my phone, and man, they are destroying the crap out of each other. Like, literally, I'm not even lying to you guys. Look. Oh, there's a modified race right there on Martinsville. I got it on my phone right now while I'm doing the show. And, yeah, they're just beating the crap out of each other. Good God. Oh, it'd be great if we see a fight. But, yeah, back to the Cup race. I hate to see that for JJ, man. Hate it for Rick Ware. John Nemechek, he tried to get going, but too much suspension damage. Ross Chastain retired. Brad was able to finish. Once again, Brad Keselowski with a great car. Nothing to show for it. So, a lot of potential winners. Denny Hamlin, he crashes out. Martin Truex Jr. blows an engine. So, lots of storyline drama there. We'll talk more about that when we go over Martinsville next week. Next week, we'll talk about that way more because it'll just make more sense to talk about it then, not really till now. So it did kind of give some guys a decent finish. Stenhouse was able to recover from 27 from 36. Ryan Newman, he just complained the car drove like crap the entire race. It's kind of funny just to hear Ryan Newman bury the car to the team. Now, granted, I know Rick Ware is probably trying as hard as they can, but man, Ryan Newman is just not happy with this car. Todd Gilliland, like I said, with a pretty poor performance in the 38, 25th. Ty Dillon, 24th. Respect finish for him. Only 22nd for Michael McDowell. Other than that, man, it wasn't really much. Christopher Bell in a great late race run with Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney held on to win. He goes to Homestead. And I'll even give a shout-out to A.J. Allmendinger. 2 top 5 finishes now at Homestead. It really goes to show you, man, AJ's a great driver. AJ's definitely a great driver. So, and some big Cup Series news as we do talk about going into Martinsville. Rick Ware Racing, it was announced today via Bob Pockris that NASCAR will not, repeat it, will not be taking Rick Ware's charter at the end of the year. The 51 charter will stay for next year, which means Rick Ware Racing will have 2 full-time cars next year and 2 full-time chartered entries. And that charter money, that is extra, so important, man. Extra important. Obviously, Justin Haley is expected to run the 51 full-time, which will leave the 15 car open, likely for J.J. Yeley and other assorted paid drivers like J.J. Yeley and Brennan Poole. Very happy about this move. Rick Ware Racing has definitely made the improvements. From 2018 to 2021, the team was kind of a joke. All due respect to Rick Ware Racing, they were kind of a joke. They were the slowest every week, pretty much. Other than Starcom or MBM, they were pretty much the slowest Cup cars every week. J.J. Yeley could actually get the most out of a Rick Ware car, but he still was pretty slow. The next-gen car definitely helped even the playing field. This year, they have ran really good. J.J. Yeley has given that team some amazing runs. I would say most notably, top 20 at the Bristol Dirt Race, top 20 at the Coca-Cola 600. What other comes to my mind? 23rd at Kansas. What else is there? 11th at Talladega. 19th at Daytona. Cole Custer, he's gotten some good runs for them too. I mean, remember, it's Cole Custer driving the 51. It feels like doesn't even feel like that even happened. But like in the 15 car, like Jensen Button, he got a couple of good runs. J.J. Yeley got 7th. I mean, that's the highlight of the year. J.J. Yeley got 7th at Atlanta on competitive pace. So it's been a good year for Rick Ware Racing. So I'm glad that NASCAR is giving them another year to get their stuff together because the performance is there. I'm sure if Rick Ware had not been progressing in performance, they probably would have stepped in and taken that charter away. I know there was some, when Starcom sold their charter, there was definitely some black eyes on them. They had not been running well. They'd actually gotten worse. Starcom Racing's last 2 years were worse than its first 2 years. It's kind of weird to think about that, but it really was. So I'm glad for Rick Ware Racing. It's good for them. And we might be in for the dream team next year. We'll have J.J. Yeley in the 15 car. And for the real OGs who remember this, J.J. Haley in the 51 car. Remember when Justin Haley was going by J.J. Haley in the K&N series and the late model divisions? Real OGs remember that. So that'd be kind of funny. J.J. Haley in the 15, J.J. Haley in the 51. Obviously, we'll call him Justin, but wouldn't that be great? J.J. Haley, J.J. Haley. Sure, it's not confusing at all, isn't it? So yeah, great news for Rick Ware Racing, which means we don't have to talk about the top 33 charter battle anymore because it really doesn't mean much. We obviously know that Live Fast is selling, so we don't need to talk about them either. Now we get into Martinsville. Martinsville, this preview won't take as long. Martinsville, no truck series. It's a crime. It's a crime that the truck series are not coming here twice a year. Thank God. Truck series is coming back here twice a year next year. I don't know why that was not done. Truck series on Martinsville is always a good race. Well, this year's was not a good race due to the stupid rain package. But Xfinity and Cup, the modifieds are going right now. I mean, I'm watching it right now as we do this. So I don't even know who's leading. I think Ryan Preece is leading right now in the modified race. But yeah, for the Xfinity race at Martinsville, we had 39 entries. We did originally have 40 entries, but the 74 of Dawson Cram has withdrawn. I would say likely due to the damage suffered in the Homestead crash. It was not repairable in time. So that sucks. Nonetheless, still 39 cars. Some of the oddball entries. J.J. Yeley returns to the 4 car for a second week. Devin Jones. Yes, Devin Jones from the sports car world. He will be driving the 07. He'll be driving the 07 for Bobby Dotter's team. Devin did attempt for CHK at the Charlotte Roval, failed to qualify. Chad Fincham, he's back with Bobby Dotter's team in the 08. Great to see Chad back. Lane Riggs is back in the 11 for Colleague. We got CJ McLaughlin. He's in his final race of the year in the 28 car, which means Kyle Sieg will be put in the 29. Chris Hacker. Yes, Chris Hacker has been reinstated by NASCAR after his arrest a couple months ago and will drive the 35 for Emmerling Gase. Joe Graf Jr. returns to the 38 car. Raja Caruth returns to Alpha Prime in the 44. Jeffrey Earnhardt moves over to the 45. Earnhardt will be running a special Cleveland Browns paint scheme. So if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you're going to be cheering for Jeffrey Earnhardt this weekend. Akinori Ogata. Everybody loves Akinori. On the 53, Timmy Hill returns to the 66 for Carl Long. And Josh Bilicki will make a rare oval Xfinity appearance in the 91. So, yes, only one car is going home. And unfortunately, I am going to pick this car. I don't like it because I like Devin Jones. I want him to make the show. But I think the 07 car is going home 3 weeks in a row, unfortunately. I think the lone DNQ will be the 07. I think Timmy Hill will easily get that 66 in the show. I think J.J. Haley will easily get that 4 car into the show. Raja Caruth, he'll have an ECR motor. He'll easily get that car into the show. The 53 of Akinori, he'll be borderline, but he is above the 07. And I feel like that's what's going to save him. Devin Jones, he has run this race before. He did run this race in the truck series. I think back in like 2013. He ran for Sharp Gallagher Racing. So Definitely, he has the experience around Martinsville, but it's been 10 years. The Bobby Dotter team has not been very fast in general. And unfortunately, I am picking the 07. I think they'll DNQ 3 races in a row. I hate to say that. I love Bobby Dotter's team. I do. But, man, they have not been good this year at all. And it's hard to believe because they started off with so much potential. Blaine Perkins full-time in the 07 and Greg Galding full-time in the 08. Here we are now, and they've been through 16,000 paid drivers and have just not had the best runs. So, yeah, hopefully that one doesn't ruffle some feathers. But yeah, I think the 07 is going to be the lone DNQ there. Should be a fun race overall. It's going to determine who goes to the Final Four. Might as well give my championship picks. My 2023 Xfinity Series championship pick. I am going with Cole Custer. Is he still? He's still in, right? I'm going with Cole Custer as my 2023 Xfinity Series champion chip pick. Who I'm going to pick to win the race? I am going to pick. I'm actually going to go with Sammy Smith. I'm going to go with Sammy Smith to win this race. Sammy's going the short track, so I'm going to go with Sammy Smith to win this race. Now we talk about the granddaddy, the grandfather clock too in general. The Xfinity 500, home of the Hail Melon last year. We will not see that, but expect NBC to show the living crap out of that. 36 cars because, again, there's no freaking open cars ever. J.J. Yeley's back in the 15 again. Ryan Newman is back in the 51 again. And B.J. McLeod returns to the 78 for the rest of the year. He'll be in that car the final 2 races. Carson Hocevar returns to the 42, of course. Again, no top 33 charter battle to look out for, so that's kind of off the picture. Rick Ware did struggle here in the spring. Yeley crashed out in the spring, so hopefully he can finish. Ryan Newman, I'm kind of curious to see what he can do at a short track. He was running very, very well at Bristol before getting taken out. So I'm curious to see how well Ryan Newman will do. BJ, hopefully doesn't finish last again. He finished here last year. So, and we'll see who makes the championship. My championship pick for the Cup Series is Kyle Larson. I'm picking Kyle Larson for the Cup Series championship. My pick to win this race. I will go with. I'm going to go with Truex. I'm going to go with Truex to win this race. So, I think Truex is going to get the win, and my championship overall pick is Kyle Larson. So, yeah, should be a fun weekend in Martinsville. It's hard to believe it's been 1 year since the Hail Melon. I don't know what's better for me. I prefer the Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano stuff over the Hail Melon. As cool as it was, I prefer a good old Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano moment. I think that's just, it's funnier. It's better. It's just funny. Yes, let us not forget Dawson Fair in the chat. Yes, Sean Hingorani. Everyone's favorite ARCA driver. Sean Hingorani will be driving the number 75 for Henderson Motorsports at Phoenix. Yes, it was leaked. The photo of it was leaked online today. It was not by me. So don't get mad at me now. Do not get mad at me. But a photo of that car was leaked online, and it does appear that the number 75 will be going to Phoenix, but with Hingorani as the driver. I don't know. It's weird though. Is he going to be another TRD driver gone? I don't know, man. But we'll just have to see. We'll have to see if we'll even make the show. I mean, another thing is, will he even make the show? Because 75 truck's pretty low in owner points. They haven't run in a while. So first off, Hingorani's got to make the show. And the 75 team has not had the best luck this year. They've even actually DNQ'd a race. So I wouldn't even say the 75's locked into the show. So that'll be fun to watch. We'll talk more about that when we get to the Phoenix show. But yeah, it's kind of it for tonight, guys. We actually had a huge pile up here. I'll show you guys right here on the show. Can you guys see that? Can you guys see that right there? Look at that. Backstretch pile up at Martinsville. Look at that. So if you're not watching the modified race right now from Martinsville, if you have Flow Racing, you better get on Flow Racing right now. So yeah, it's going to be fun. Get Flow Racing, and that's a free shout out right there to Flow Racing. So God dang. Almost flipped over. Wow. That's a live reaction, folks. But yeah, guys, it's been a long road this season. I'm glad that this show has been as popular as it's been. I love doing this show. I love talking about the NASCAR backmarkers. A lot of people in the sport love my show. A lot of people don't like the show because I call them out sometimes. I'll admit, I've gotten called out a couple times by some drivers and some teams. But I just call it right down the middle, man. I call it down the middle, and I feel like I call it fair. You know? And I know you don't want to ruffle feathers in this sport, but I do feel like I'm fair. You know, I mean, I'll praise the good, and when you're bad, I'll say you're bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend of racing at Martinsville. It's hard to believe. Only 2 more weekends of stock car racing left in the year, man. And then we're off to 2024, man. It's amazing to me how fast these years are going by, man. It feels like we just got to Daytona. I was in Daytona, and here we are now. I mean, it was 8 months ago I was in Daytona. Does it feel like it's been 8 months? No. So, but anyway, guys, you have a great rest of your Thursday night and a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you all on Tuesday for NASCAR backmarker battles, the Martinsville review, and the Phoenix preview. The second to last show of the year, guys, will be next Tuesday. And then the ARCA Racing podcast will be next Thursday. So join me there then, guys. Have a great weekend. I'm going to go get some dinner. And yes, take care, guys. I give you guys the goodbye salute. Remember to don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel now. And have a great night. So Colby Evans, starting Park Car, signing off. So long, guys.